What's up, guys? Zeri here, back for another VOD review. If you guys missed it, today was the second day of the Tacticians Trials. This is the first really big tournament in North America, or the Americas as it is now, and all across the world. Actually, we're having these in all the separate regions. This is really important for qualifying people to the Tacticians Cup, which is the kind of like weekend 2 of this tournament, and then obviously the qualifier points you get from this gets you to regionals, which can get you to worlds, can get you into this new like TFT Pro circuit that they essentially have. These are really important tournaments. And so I want to do a VOD from them of the person who got first place overall on day 2. This was Guubums. He had a really nice performance across the day. Didn't bot for a single game. 72 points across the entire weekend. Just a really nice performance. And he also played a comp that I have to talk about because this is the dominant comp of the patch. This is something that if there's a B patch, it will be nerfed, but until there is potentially a B patch, which I think maybe there will be one, we'll see. Maybe I'll talk about that a little bit more. You have to be playing this, and the reason why is this item that we see right here. Hollow Bow. Repulsor Lantern, fine. Hollow Bow, amazing. And then Flux Capacitor, pretty solid. We can actually even just pull up Zeri itemization, go to items here, and you can see having Hollow Bow on your Zeri, this is with no other filters, minus 0.5 delta. You get half a placement if you put a Hollow Bow on your Zeri. Pulse Stabilizer, the other really nice one, but it really just combos well with Hollow Bow. If you go to delta here, you're going to see some of the best builds on Zeri is when you have the combination of both. Actually, you have the Hollow Bow and the Pulse Stabilizer here, but even without the Pulse Stabilizer, you can go this setup that most people are going, which is this Guinsu's. I mean, it's somewhere in here, but Guinsu's plus Hollow Bow plus IE. If you guys aren't aware what Hollow Bow does and how it works, they buffed it a good bit this patch, which gives you some AS, some AP, and says attacks to critically strike, grant 2 bonus mana. And then here's the really important part. After casting an ability, gain 60% crit strike chance for 5 seconds. Now, the thing about Hollow Bow is that according to Riot Games, you are not meant to actually stack this 60%. So it lasts for 5 seconds. If you cast once and then 2 seconds later you cast again, you should stay at 60%. Now, the way this works in actuality, in the real world, is that you cast, you get 60%, and then if 2 seconds later you cast again, you get another 60%, which means you can get some really disgusting crit numbers. If you have something like Bad Luck Protection, the one that converts crit into AD, you get a ton of AD. But in general, this just means if you have a Zeri who is casting a ton, that means that she is just getting an insane amount of attack or crit chance. So that's why you see people potentially angling this. This is actually going to be a pretty interesting lobby. And yeah, Guubums, I can move my head here. He actually calls TF in this spot because we're TF paired here. We're bow here. We have potentially something else in this spot. We have this, this artifact anvil that we're sitting on here. So, potentially something that we can play for. But we do see our first augment here. Spare parts, gold for dummies, worth the wait. This is trait augment here. We'd love to take a trait augment if possible here. And we do have the full Guinsu slam. So we could easily play a TF game from here. I'm honestly a little surprised that Guubums didn't pop this anvil here before the augment. I oftentimes like popping this just to give me the information, but it looks like he wants to go the reverse way and say, let's look at augment first and then pop the anvil to get a sense for like, okay, I'm taking this augment that's locking me into a line, and then I still have 4 artifacts. I can take a tank one if I'm playing some other kind of line. If I get something broken for TF, it's just, you'd really like a Zanyas if you're playing TF. And so like, I'd love to pop this, see, okay, am I playing TF? And then, get the Zanyas and then, take something from that. But okay. We roll our first augment here and we see trial run and we say, okay, you know what? We have the Hollow Bow, we have the trial run, we scout the lobby, no one's taken yet. Honestly, I think that, and oh my God, he does this is actually an incredibly good lobby to be playing this in, because we do this first scout here, nothing. The second scout here, we see Rengar with the artifact. So this person's playing Rengar. This person is DFG, so they're not playing into Zeri comp. This person is taking the Dynamo augment, so they're probably going to steal some Sejuanis, but they're not going to steal any Zeri, so we don't have to worry about that. This person is Bruiser comp, so they're not going to steal any of our units. This person is Divinicore, so they're not going to steal any of our units. This person, we have no clue yet. They have Titan's Resolve Slam. They'd love to play into Rengar, honestly, but I mean, probably not going to play contested Rengar. And then the last person, I mean, I'm not going to go back again. So our spot is actually amazing to play Exotech in a world where oftentimes I think that NA kind of overplays this Exotech line. Feels like everybody is playing Exotech. We're actually getting an uncontested line into Exotech. So we're going to level up here. and then pop this anvil here and grab Anima Visage here. This is a really, really nice. If you actually just pull up, this is another thing to call out here. If you just go to items, sort by artifact and sort by AVP, you're gonna see Anima very, very high up here. Just one of the best items in the game, just in providing you raw stats, you know, just a bunch of HP, healing max HP every second. This also synergizes really nice with Exotech because Exotech gives you more HP, which is then going to be healed up even more from the Anima, or Anima, as people who like to pronounce it correctly will call it. So yeah, like it's a great item to take in this comp. I bet if you look at the delta of this onto Sejuani, you feel quite good about it. Honestly, I'll pull it up, but I don't want to pause too many times in this VOD just because, you know, we got to get somewhere. But Sejuani here, items, let me filter Ornn items onto Sejuani. Anima is the most built one and very solid, minus 0.24 average placement. You get a quarter of a placement better of your game just throwing an Anima onto the Anima onto your Sejuani here. Horizon Focus, by the way, and Light Shield, the better ones if you look statistically, but I mean, a decent bit lower place, or a decent bit lower play rate, honestly. But all right, we also hit the 2-star jacks here. So we took this trial run augment, which actually has been nerfed this patch. I don't think it's as broken as it once was. We're also going to team planner out the entire Exotech board because when you are taking this augment, you are almost forced to play towards 7 Exotech. You really want to play towards 7 Exotech with this augment just because you want to get the triple item golem. You know, a 2-item golem, especially, you know, a 1-item golem is really not appealing, but a 3-item golem, hey, I mean, that golem actually might tank for a little while, might do a little bit of work. We also slammed the Guinsu. I think it was pretty smart from Guubums to kind of realize, one, my board's not bad in this spot. I would honestly, he's gonna take Warmogs here, it looks like. I mean, Warmogs scales up the HP from the Anima Visage. You're gonna get some Armor Mar from Bastion. We also get 5 Exotech in here, which is huge. Or maybe he's actually not even going to slam the full Warmogs, and he's just saying, I'm going to take half this belt here. I mean, imagine we're going to slam it if it swings a fight, but I'm sorry, I probably would have been leaning towards just grabbing like a Sunfire Cape or something, but I guess the idea is just like, especially with Anima Visage, you want real tank items. Okay, now that I think about it, that makes perfect sense, and that's why we did that here. It's also a triple tank item Jax in this spot here with the Exotech item as well. I mean, he's just never going to die here, and he's going to do, oh my god, an insane amount of damage, actually, just from that setup. Okay, I mean, this makes a lot of sense. Just taking Repulsor Lantern, I mean, which also gives you max HP, and then you're also doing percent max HP. Yeah, I'm actually down. If I throw Repulsor Lantern into the planner here, yeah, I mean, it makes Warmog's delta look pretty good. I mean, it still says like Protector's Vow is good, but actually, yeah, Sunfire is positive delta with this setup. And obviously, we don't want to like filter down too much and say, okay, I'll never slam a Sunfire then with Repulsor Lantern. But the idea is Repulsor Lantern wants to play for a bunch of HP. Anima wants to play for a bunch of HP. So then why not slam a Warmogs? The other thing is that like Anima Visage is a very selfish tank item. It wants to make your tank really tanky. And so I think this is actually a mistake a lot of people make. And so Guubums really smart just to optimize his itemization here and not to fall into that trap of just building, say, a Sunfire, which is a great item in general, but doesn't actually make the most sense here because Anima, you're playing for this really huge tank. You want to play for a super tank with Anima Visage, and so if we're going to play for a super tank, we really want a selfish item. Honestly, yeah, if you look at Sejuani and then you throw Anima Visage on her, I'm just gonna look at the statistics on that. I mean, next item here, you still, yeah, I mean, the selfish, I mean, Protector's Vow still looks really good just because Protector's Vow, I think, is a good item onto Sejuani. It actually still says it's the best one, but Sunfire Cape has positive delta. Warmogs has just barely positive delta, but I do still think the idea stands is that when you have Anima Visage, you want to play for a really big tank. If you go for stuff like Sunfire and like, you know, Evan's Shroud onto this Sejuani, she's really not going to be that tanky, and then you're not going to get much value out of the Anima Visage. All right, second augment here. We're in a pretty good spot. Pretty healthy, win streaking, strong board here, especially after that Warmog slam. Picked up a dupe here, which we could just use to make like Mord 2 or something. Fire Sale is a very solid economy option. So is Placebo, actually. And then Blistering Strikes is a solid anti-heal option. We're pretty far from anti-heal. I would be really tempted by Blistering here, but I mean, these I would not be surprised if we took any of these. I would probably go Blistering here, but we'll see. Looks like he's leaning Placebo in this spot here. I mean, I could certainly see any of these. I don't think it's going to be a Pandora's. Okay, he does take Blistering, yeah. I think this is the best take here. I mean, we are nowhere near anti-heal in this spot here, especially after slamming the Warmogs. This makes the Warmog slam even better because like now we don't have to worry about the fact that we killed, you know, 2 anti-heal components. So yeah, we get our anti-heal here. Also, Zeri is this kind of unit that's just gonna like dash around the board and kind of auto attack everybody. And so getting anti-heal on all of our autos is really, really nice. It's also just, it's gonna be a little troublesome for us to actually build anti-heal this game. Component-wise, yes, but also just like unit-wise, like who's going to hold our anti-heal here if we do not take this Blistering Strikes here? You'd have to throw it onto like a Jhin or a Varus here. You'd have Varus? What am I doing? Yeah, you'd have to throw like a Morello onto, or a red buff onto Jhin or Varus in this spot. And like I said, we don't have the components for that, but the other thing is just like, it's not that appealing from just an item build perspective. I think we'd be pretty happy just building real items onto these units instead of just a random anti-heal option. The only thing we're missing at this point is armor shred, but we have the cloak open for Evan Stroud here. So, I mean, the spot is looking amazing for Guubums. Also, we did just slam the full IE here. When you have Hollow Bow, you really want to be building IE onto Zeri. The delta gets really, really nice. The idea is just you're going to get all of this crit chance. You want some ability to, some spell crit. The clones from Zeri cannot, as far as I've heard, spell crit, or the clones autos from Zeri cannot crit without putting spell crit. That's what Leduc said, and I trust Leduc in all things Teamfight Tactics. So that is. And I mean, it makes sense when you look at the delta for Hollow Bow. If you have a Hollow Bow, you really want to IE. The only time when you don't build IE with Hollow Bow is when you have Pulse Stabilizer, because Pulse Stabilizer also has that spell crit effect on it. So that's kind of like the only time that you have to not worry about that. But I mean, honestly, Guubums spot is looking amazing here. We found some upgrades onto this board. I think the Warmog Slam was really instrumental this game in preserving our streak. I do think there's actually a world where had we slammed Sunfire, this Jax would be a little bit less tanky, and then we wouldn't be on the streak that we would be on. And then we'd also end up taking like an econ augment at 3-2, which might mean that we would also continue to like not streak. So really good job playing around this anima. The rest of his items kind of fell into his lap. I would say the Gwinsus and the IE just, I mean, you can't fault a man for building the perfect items when you get dropped the perfect items. And he ended up taking an extra cloak, which I thought was kind of interesting. He didn't have amazing options on Carousel. I think he actually might have had to take that cloak there, but kind of interesting item selection. The next kind of big question for Mr. Bums here, Guubums, is are you going to level at 4-1 and roll? Or are you going to wait till 4-2? When we scouted earlier, it looked like a lot of these units were not that contested. Also, just going to completely throw away the idea of potentially finding a Jhin 3, just saying, yeah, I don't really care about that. I mean, 78 gold here. We're going to make the adaptive helm here. Probably, yeah, double adaptive helm going to go on the Sejuani here, just saying, I don't know what else tier is going to be in this spot, and yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. We really don't want to make like a blue buff for Varus or anything like that. We just throw double adaptive onto this Sedge here, and then just position like this, and have Sedge get a huge stun off on this board. This is also something I think Riveting didn't do in the perfect way, but I actually do want to go back and talk about positioning here, because Sejuani is a pretty interesting unit positioning-wise. She ults on her target. This means that oftentimes what people do is they'll try to pull Sejuani away from the corner. The idea here would be like if Sejuani was like over here, like next to the Jax, she'd end up ulting this Alistar, doing an ult like this, and she'd actually miss the corner here. And when people actually solo frontline, you can actually dodge Sejuani ult much easier if you just pull the Sejuani to the point where she's ulting over on this Alistar here. Like if she's ever ulting the Alistar here, you're not hitting the corner here. The nice thing is we have Sejuani all the way on the right here, which means she ults on this Mordekaiser, and this is like the perfect hex for her to be ulting. It means she gets the Jhin, and she actually gets all the rest of the backline here. So we'll be watching for the Sejuani positioning the rest of this game. I think that is one of the big things to look for in this comp is Sejuani positioning. But I love not rolling here for Guubums, actually. We know that this line is relatively uncontested. I mean, there are going to be a few people taking Sedges out of the pool, but almost nobody taking Zeris. So rolling in this spot, I don't think makes that much sense. All right. Last Aug here, Health is Wealth, Noble Sack, Item Collector. I mean, I don't mind an Item Collector in this build. You have a ton of extra items from just all the Exotech. Those are just going to give you a little bit of extra stats. The AD, not bad, onto the Zeri here. Noble Sack, also another just decent option. But I think the reason he did this Because, I mean, there's no world where we're taking Hela's Wealth. I think he just thinks Item Collector's that good. We do have the option to take Little Buddies here. We are guaranteed to be playing probably 3 Little Buddies, right? The Neferi, the Jax, and the Kindred. Oh, and the Jhin, actually. 4 Little Buddies on this board. I mean, don't you just take Little Buddies? The only downside is we are playing Mord as a 3 cost. You want to play kind of as few 3 costs as possible when you're playing Little Buddies, but we're going to get really good Little Buddies value onto the Zeri and onto the Sejuani here. So it's really between Collector and Little Buddies, and yeah, looks like he thinks Little Buddies is the option here. All right, level up here. We really need to find a Zeri, and honestly, you might be able to stop rolling there. We do pick up the Zeri here. Now, here's the question. Do you continue to roll in this spot? And also, yeah, this is the kind of slightly awkward thing about this setup is you do have this pulse, it's not called Pulse Collector, Pulse Amplifier here. And that just kind of has to sit on Jhin here. This is Zeri's, quote unquote best item. It would be her best item if this Hollow Bow interaction with Zeri and just like IE in general was not disgusting. So yeah, it is the one that is made for Zeri. Normally you'd throw this onto Zeri, but Hollow Bow is so good. You need Guinsu and IE with Hollow Bow to just make it work. So then you just kind of have to throw the other one onto the Jhin here. This is why stuff like the Pulse, God damn it, these stupid Exotech items, I mean, they have cool names, honestly. They did a good job, but I'm thinking Pulse, I'm combining Flux Capacitor and Pulse Stabilizer, but this is why Pulse Stabilizer is really nice, because that actually just gives you your second Zeri item, and then you kind of make the items work that way, or even just a second tank item. Honestly, I think Guubums probably feels bad about the fact that Flux Capacitor is his last item in this spot, because it just has to stick randomly onto the Jhin here. But you can see we're on a win streak now. All it takes is 1 Zeri to start a win streak when you have this setup, when you have the ability to get to the Hollow Bow. That is just how it works. We do really want Giant Pelt here so that we can get to the Evans Shroud in this spot here. We are going to grab that here. The question, oh my god, the natural Sejuani is a little bit disgusting in this spot. I'm actually quite surprised this is our item setup here, because, I mean, the Adaptive Helmet's a fantastic item onto the Sejuani, but we have our Orin item sitting on Jax here. I wonder when... I mean, if it were to move, you would move it right now. I'm actually shocked that this is our setup here. His idea is just Sedge is going to be the AP caster here, and then Jax is going to be a little bit of the tank. I actually also want to, after this fight is over, let's go back and look at this positioning, because I do think this was really nice positioning from Metzua here, or Zhao here. This is actually exactly what I was talking about with the Sejuani. If you can pull Sedge to the left here, this means she can't ult corner, and we're not on the correct side regardless. The Sejuani is never ulting the correct side here. If she were where the Mordekaiser is, she would walk up and ult. But look at this. The Sejuani here gets pulled up over to the Braum here, and look at this cast. It misses the corner here. It completely misses the corner. It misses all of the crucial units in this spot, actually. Sejuani ult is so influential, especially when you're building double adaptive here. Had we have Sejuani in the right spot here, I think we would have, I mean, we certainly would have won this fight. Also, not going to hold on to the Garen here, the God of the Net. This unit is pretty good in this comp. You can do stuff like Marksman onto Zeri. You can do stuff like Exotech himself to get a 7 Exotech bonus onto him. You can Exotech other units, but it does feel a little bit hard to fit, and the other 5 costs I think do feel a bit better onto this board. You're really excited about getting stuff like Viego, just getting an extra random unit on this board, Aurora throwing unit in, and she's also getting her Dynamo value on this board. So yeah, we just clear this guy. So 62 HP. I mean, we have the Sejuani too. We are easily pushing 9 here. Don't even need to roll for the Zeri, especially because she is pretty uncontested in this spot. So yeah, we're going to do a little bit of a scout here. This guy, kind of unfortunate that he had to end up making a BT onto the Fiddlesticks here, because, I mean, with the Sniper's Focus, I really don't think you want that BT sitting there. But, I mean, all good. But yeah, I mean, the thing that's blowing me away is this itemization this game. Last item here, we're just going to take an Archangels to itemize Varus. Decent item onto him, especially with all the frontline that we got going here. But yeah, I'm really blown away that these items are still sitting on Jax, and he just says, I mean, Jax is going to be a better tank with the Orin item and all of these just full tank items. I mean, Jax is more of a pure tank than Sejuani. Sejuani is more of a caster type tank here. Also, we make a pretty solid swap there with the Sejuani. I do think Sedge middle was probably ideal here, but obviously we didn't know for sure that we were positioning for Emily, and we win the fight anyway, so good dub here. Emily actually, I want to go back and look at her board real quick, because she's playing kind of this interesting mix board. Normally when you're playing Street Demon when Rengar these days, you're just playing 7 Street Demon. She's actually only playing 5 here, and then she's playing Varus plus the Vex and going for Varus 3. Huh, kind of surprising. I mean, maybe she missed on Brand. She actually does have the Samira here, so she didn't even have to hit on every single Street Demon to play this setup. She has no Mundo here. I'm pretty surprised actually she's not playing 7 Street Demon, because I do think that is just the better version. Honestly, it probably would have won this fight if she was 7 Street Demon, but I guess she had so many Varuses that she... Wait, and one more thing. She has climbed the ladder here, which isn't that way better with 7 Street Demon? I mean, maybe she just completely missed on Brands, but I'm pretty surprised that she's playing... I mean, she must have just naturaled a ton of Varuses and said, okay, I can go for Varus 3, but yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised that's her setup. But all right, we're going to level up here. Speaking of Dr. Mundo, we're going to get Mundo in on our board as just a random bruiser, and now, oh, this is the idea. Now that we have Bruiser in, we're going to move items over to the Mordekaiser and use him as kind of the pure tank. I mean, this is an interesting idea, and not one that I've kind of thought about. This idea that, I mean, yes, Sejuani is a 4 cost. She does also benefit from your little buddies, so I would be really excited to be itemizing her with my main tank items. But he says, I mean, I think the main thing at the end of the day, he probably was planning on putting these main tank items onto Sejuani, but the main idea is we built double adaptive Helm. What are we doing with these double adaptives if not putting them onto Sejuani? The only thing you could maybe think about is move one to the backline, throw it onto Varus, but these double adaptives probably have to go into Sejuani, and then you do really want to combine the Warmogs, the Anima Visage, and the Repulsor here. And so you might as well throw those all onto Mordekaiser. He is also kind of more of a pure tank than the Sejuani. He gives himself some like a shield when he casts. So yeah, I mean, I think this actually makes sense. It's an interesting idea. Okay, all right. We are going for another damage item here. I guess Static Shiv's fine. Guardbreaker's fine. Yeah, I think Static Shiv is a solid option here. We can throw this. Yeah, actually, he checked his damage there, so I'm down to check that as well. I mean, how much is... Yeah, Mord's doing a little bit. The dummy, the Golem's doing a little bit here as well. So, yeah, Static Shiv, not a bad pickup in this spot just to get some Immortal Shred onto this board, even though, you know, it's not the end of the world. We have the Armor Shred and the Heal Cut built already, so, yeah. Also, the Mundo on this board, didn't mention it, but it is a little buddy, which is kind of cool. Just a bruiser and little buddy on this board. Not anything else on this board. We're not getting Slayer or the Street Demon in on this board, but I mean, it's, you know, a little buddy, and little buddies are never bad here. All right, we still, by the way, on this Zeri 1 to fast 10. We are going to lose this fight finally, but I mean, we're 82 HP. Guubums, I mean, doing a really good job of actually not over-rolling this game, saying, I have good frontline. The difference between Zeri 1 and Zeri 2 is not going to be huge here, so I'm just going to say we have enough damage. The Hollow Bow is really doing the heavy lifting here, and so yeah, I don't really care about hitting Zeri 2. It makes her a little tankier. Maybe we wouldn't have died to that Aurora there, but who really cares in this spot? I mean, we'd much rather just make it to level 10 and cap out our board high enough to potentially win the lobby. We are fighting now a very scary Fiddlesticks. This guy did make it to the double Archangels. We are, oh, just barely going to lose. I mean, that is also, I mean, both of these fights were a Zeri 2 diff, but I do think it is perfectly acceptable to do what we did in this spot here and not actually play for it. Just because, I mean, we're at 71 HP. We can play for max cap in this spot, play for, you know, winning out the lobby. We throw the Zac onto the board here, by the way, just to make sure that if we natural a blob in the next shop, we can pick it up. So just tiny little optimization there, but always good to go for. Another adaptive helm here, just going to be a Aurora item. I really wish we had the adaptive helm augment in this game. That doesn't exist in the game anymore. What did it used to be called? Fully adaptive, that doubled up on the stats that you get. I mean, that would have been amazing here, but sadly, it doesn't exist in the game. All right, rotate into Emily again. Once again, like, you would ideally put Sedge middle versus Emily's board, but I mean, we can't guarantee that we're going to fight Emily. We do actually finally lose. Emily did make it to the Varus 3, so that is the upside to playing for Varus, is that when you make it to Varus, you feel good. We're gonna level play Zac here, roll it down for some blobs. We do have other stuff that we could get in here. I mean, we hit Urgot 2 to pull in, that's nice. God of the Net, it's 6-2. He really, I'm actually surprised we even consider this so highly. I would not consider God of the Net here at all, just because this game's gonna be over in a few rounds. We're gonna get one God of the Net proc, almost guaranteed no 2 God of the Net procs before this game is really over. And yeah, if we start losing some of these fights badly to these level 10 boards, we could actually like be at risk of going something like a third in a spot that, you know, you really wouldn't want to be going third here. So yeah, I don't think it's acceptable to play Garen in the spot. And it looks like Guubums agrees. I mean, to be fair, Zac is pretty mediocre here. I'd love to find that Viego and just play him on this board. I mean, it's techie for our 3 out of Mordekaiser, and he's just an extra body on the board with the Viego dummy, which would be pretty nice. I don't actually really know how that interacts with little buddies. I don't think it counts as a little buddy. I think it's like a 0 cost, but I mean, if it counted as a little buddy, would I be completely shocked? No, I wouldn't. This is actually another really close loss from Guubums. I was actually going to focus on something here that I don't think Guubums is really focusing on too much, but something that I like to do when I play this comp is make sure my backline is not super, super crowded. Move stuff like Varus up to the 3rd row so that my Zeri has room to run around. Because like in a fight like that, her having to run to the left side meant that she got aggroed onto by the Fiddlesticks first, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, we do pick the Aurora too, which is the main way for us to kind of cap out this board. Ooh, look at this. Drop down. Wow. Wow, I'm actually shocked by this play. Drop down to 5 Exotech here. I mean, the idea is you can certainly cap out this board dropping down to 5. I'm really surprised by this. Is it? I mean, okay, we lose this fight. I mean, it also might be one of those situations, not a shifting momentum, but you know, in the shifting momentum situation, they talked about how, you know, like when you are losing fights, sometimes you just have to say like, okay, I'm gonna try something different here, and trying something different here is fitting a Kobuko on the board and a Viego on the board. I feel like I just straight up disagree with this. I'm pretty surprised by this, but all right. We also move the Repulsor now over to the Sejuani. We are fighting this really capped board again. Oh my god, I have no clue what's happening in this fight. Our Zac doing a ton of work, but we just barely end up losing, actually. Yeah, I mean, some very capped boards this game. Fiddlesticks super, super capped out. This guy, the Viego 2 and the Aurora 2 and the Everything 2-starred ended up clearing us. Honestly, a little bit surprised there, but I mean, maybe it was the drop down to 5. I mean, Guubums must have evaluated the drop down to 5 Exo was strongest. I'm honestly surprised by that call. But okay, this video is long because I did a lot of pausing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this VOD review. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Twitch from Edify. All my links down below. What would you guys have dropped down to 5 Exotech there? Would you guys have played something else? Guubums, are you watching this video right now? Do you know? I mean, give me your reasoning down below. Sometimes this happens where like I VOD review somebody and they watch my video and I'm kind of like self-conscious because I'm sure there's even other crazy stuff that I didn't touch on here that is like genius stuff that I didn't. But I mean, you know, if you're watching this video, Guubums, tell me all of it. Give me all of your secret tech down below. I mean, look, you already won the trials. Who cares about the cup? Not really. I mean, I think a lot of people care about the cup. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.